There is a way we give our power away that is so subtle, so normalized, that most people never even realize it's happening. It doesn't happen in one dramatic moment. We surrender it quietly, invisibly, decision by decision, belief by belief, habit by habit. It happens through the smallest choices, the quiet compromises, the unquestioned beliefs we accept as truth, until one day we wake up feeling disconnected from ourselves, unsure of our direction, and wonder why life feels like something that is happening to us, something beyond our control. We hand our power to systems, to opinions, to inherited beliefs, to authority figures, to fear, and to the endless commentary of the media, influencers, podcasts, and social platforms, restlessly consuming, searching, and devouring. We begin to trust consensus opinions over our own intuition, and we call that being responsible, being realistic, or just the way life works. We come to believe that others know better about life, about success, about health, about what is possible for us. But underneath all of it is something far more fundamental. We've been taught to distrust our own knowing. We learn to override what we feel. We learn to suppress what we sense. We learn to distrust what arises naturally within us. And then, years later, we feel unhappy, discontent, disconnected, not because something was taken away from us, but because we handed it over. This is not a moral failing, it's conditioning. And the cost of that conditioning is our sovereignty. True power is sovereignty, the ability to stand fully in your own awareness and trust that there is an intelligence within you that knows exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. And the moment you begin listening to that intelligence, not as an abstract idea, but as a lived, embodied experience, everything changes. No one knows what is right for you better than you do. Not society, not experts, not collective belief systems, not even well-meaning people who love you, such as your family and friends. Your higher self is not distant. Your connection to higher knowing is not inaccessible. It's not something you earn. It is you remembering who you are. So let's talk about the ways we unknowingly surrender our power in everyday life. And one of the most common and most costly ways we do this is through compromising our boundaries. The body knows immediately when a boundary is being crossed. We feel it the moment it happens. That tightness in the chest, that sinking feeling in the stomach, that quiet inner voice that says, "This doesn't feel right." The signal is not subtle. We can clearly sense and feel it. And yet many of us have been conditioned to ignore it. We say yes when we mean no. We tolerate behavior that diminishes us. We allow others to cross lines that leave us feeling anxious, unsettled, or internally strained. We remain in situations that diminish our sense of self because we feel afraid of discomfort or change, rejection, or conflict. We feel stress about what might happen if we speak, if we choose differently, if we honor what we feel instead of suppressing it. And then over time, we wonder why we feel depleted, resentful, or disconnected from ourselves. But every time you override that inner knowing, every time you abandon that quiet voice that tells you a situation is bringing you out of alignment, something important happens. Your body registers that abandonment. The nervous system records it. The emotional body records it. The subconscious records it. And over time, this erodes self-trust and creates self-doubt. Not because you're incapable of trusting your inner voice, but because you have learned not to listen to it. The body begins to tighten. It's responding to repeated moments of self-doubt. True empowerment, then, is not about becoming more assertive or forceful. It's the willingness to honor what you feel, even when it's inconvenient, even when it causes disruption, even when it requires the courage to make meaningful change. Boundaries are acts of self-recognition. They say, I honor and trust myself. I'm willing to listen to my own knowing. I choose to bring myself back into a state of balance and alignment. But boundaries are not the only place we give our power away. Another profound way we relinquish our power is by unconsciously accepting the opinions and judgments of others as our truth. Someone says something about the world, about what's possible, about who you are and who you aren't, and without questioning or examining it, you absorb it. You take it in as truth. You allow it to shape your choices, define your limitations, and quietly influence how you see yourself. Often without realizing it, you begin to let the perceptions of others define you and develop prejudices that reflect the bias of others. And most of the time, you don't even notice this has happened. Because we're on autopilot, few of us stop long enough to truly examine the beliefs we hold about ourselves and about our lives. And if we did, we would likely realize that many, if not most, of those beliefs were inherited from family, from friends, from culture, from education systems, from religion, from collective fear. The collective consciousness around us is very loud. It speaks with confidence and certainty, presenting opinions as facts and beliefs as unquestionable truth. We are constantly inundated by a stream of commentary, especially from influencers on social platforms, absorbing perspectives without realizing how deeply they are shaping our inner landscape. When you live according to the opinions of others, you're not living your own life. You're living within the limits of someone else's understanding, shaped by the conditioning, fears, and perceptions of others. Empowerment begins the moment you pause and ask, does this actually resonate with what I feel to be true within me? Not intellectually, but experientially. When something resonates as truth, there's a subtle sense of expansion in the body. When something is false, it feels constrictive. Your body, your energy, knows the difference long before your mind begins to argue or rationalize with it. And if it doesn't feel right, it doesn't matter how widely accepted it is. It doesn't belong to you. It's not your truth. You were not designed to conform to consensus or to live according to the views and opinions of others. You were designed to create from your own awareness, to live from an inner authority that is responsive, alive, and uniquely yours. This habit of looking outside ourselves for authority doesn't just shape how we think, it shapes our health and how we relate to our bodies as well. One of the ways we most deeply relinquish and outsource our power is in our relationship with our body. We're taught that the body is fragile, that it's prone to breakdown, that healing must come from outside intervention, that our health is something to be managed, controlled, or repaired externally. And while external tools can assist us, serving as permission slips when we've chosen to believe we need them, they're not the source of healing. The body is highly intelligent. It's not separate from consciousness. It is consciousness, structured into the form of our physical body. Every atom and molecule, cell and tissue, organ and system in the body responds to thought, emotion, and belief. Fear-based emotions cause stress and deplete the body. When we're in a state of emotional and psychological balance, we restore the body to its natural state of wholeness, order, and coherence. And yet, we rarely turn inward. We're conditioned not to. Instead, we lose ourselves in social media, hungrily devouring the guidance of one health expert on one podcast, only to be refuted by another health expert on the next. We bounce from opinion to opinion, lost in the noise, while our higher awareness waits quietly, patiently, for us to come home. The moment we feel ill, our instinct is almost always to look externally for a cure, conventional or natural. Pills for this, supplements for that, cough medicine, antibiotics, echinacea, homeopathy. It rarely occurs to us to pause, tune into the body, and ask what brought it into a state of imbalance and what it needs in order to return to health. Our go-to is to outsource, to rely on something external instead of going within. There are countless documented cases of spontaneous remission, radical healing, and complete reversals of everything from cancer to autoimmunity to so-called terminal conditions, when individuals reclaim belief in their own capacity to heal. This is becoming increasingly visible through the works of individuals such as Dr. Joe Dispenza, where thousands of people have healed conditions labeled terminal or incurable. How? Through simple breath work, through belief, through intention. That's it. This isn't magic. It's an understanding of what creates reality, including your health and well-being. You, your life, your body, your circumstances, every experience that unfolds in your life is a projection of your consciousness. When you reclaim authority over your body, you stop seeing it as something beyond your control, something that can only be fixed by others, whether through conventional or natural means. When you reclaim authority over your body, you begin to recognize yourself as the intelligence responsible for its health. I very rarely get sick, and if I do, it's transient. I don't accept illness as a part of my reality. I trust my body to communicate what it needs, and I listen. I honor that communication. I run energy through my body every day. The toroidal flow I teach in my full body energy activation video. Link is in the description. I feel it recalibrating my system. That recalibration instinctively calls for a clean diet of organic, unprocessed foods, and I honor that as well. Because of this, illness is rare for me, and if my body does move into imbalance, the first thing I do is stop and ask why. When we address the cause rather than fixating on symptoms, the symptoms naturally resolve. The same pattern of disempowerment shows up just as clearly in our relationship with money. From early on, we are taught stories about scarcity, that money's limited, that it must be earned through struggle or hard work, that it's tied to worth, morality, or a lack of spirituality. We inherit beliefs that say, it's not for people like me. I have to work hard for it. I don't have the skills, the knowledge, or connections. Spiritual people shouldn't want money. None of these are truths. They are programs. They're belief structures passed down through family, culture, religion, and collective conditioning, rarely questioned, yet deeply internalized. Money is not good or evil. It's neutral. It's just a form of energy exchange that reflects your belief structures about it. Money responds to your beliefs, perception, and expectation of it in the same way everything else in reality does. When you outsource your financial well-being to limiting beliefs about money, you're buying into poverty consciousness. And there's nothing spiritual about poverty consciousness. Scarcity is not a virtue. Struggle is definitely not a requirement. Lack is not a sign of moral integrity or spiritual depth. It's a misunderstanding about the abundant nature of reality. Abundance in all forms, including financial, is what we experience when we shed beliefs that limit or constrain us. It's what emerges when we realize that abundance is our natural state of being, and which only eludes us when we clothe ourselves in beliefs and opinions that diminish us. Abundance doesn't disappear because it's unavailable. It simply becomes invisible to us when we accept stories that tell us we are unworthy, incapable, or excluded from the flow of resources that are always available to all. And so, what does it truly mean to be empowered? Empowerment is often misunderstood. It's not about asserting yourself over others, and it's not about trying to control outcomes. It's not about bravado, dominance, or false confidence. True empowerment begins the moment you recognize that guidance does not come from outside you. It emerges from within you. When you stop and you listen. It's the moment you stop outsourcing your authority and begin trusting yourself again. This intelligence is not an emotional impulse. It's not a fear-based instinct, and it's not mental analysis. Empowerment is knowingness, a quiet, unfiltered awareness, a direct form of communication that arises when the physical mind is no longer interfering with the flow of energy from the higher mind. This is what intuition actually is, not something vague or mystical, but higher guidance you feel the moment you're willing to trust in yourself enough to receive it. And once you learn how to tune into that knowing, the answers are no longer something you have to search for externally. There's something you receive. When you are empowered, you stop asking, "What should I do?" and you begin listening to what is already being communicated through the feelings and sensations that naturally arise in the body in response to that question. You begin to sense when something feels right and when something doesn't. And you learn to trust that higher knowing consistently. Your life begins to reorganize itself, not around fear or external validation, but around self-trust rather than outsourced sovereignty. When you choose to stop looking outside of yourself for answers and instead begin to trust in your innate ability to tune into the information you need, you start to experience clarity instead of confusion. You start to experience flow instead of resistance. You feel calm certainty instead of anxiety-driven decision-making. And when you ignore that knowing, when you trust the opinions and judgments of others over your own, the body tells you immediately. You feel out of alignment, disempowered, at the mercy of life, instead of recognizing that you are its creator. It's time to take back your power. And how do you do that? Taking back your power begins with a simple but radical recognition. You are not a limited being struggling in a hostile world. You are a radiant being of light. You are pure consciousness itself, expressing through a physical body so that it can have a physical experience. There is no such thing as a limit, except the moment you choose to accept one. The world you experience mirrors the frequency you radiate moment to moment, shaped by your beliefs, your expectations, and the ideas you hold about who you are. Reality is not fixed, it's reflective. You can always gauge your current state of being by looking at your life and noticing what is being reflected back to you, because your life will always mirror your state of mind, your state of consciousness. The moment you change a limiting belief to an unlimiting one, the moment you choose to become empowered by recognizing that you already have access to all the answers you will ever need, the external world around reorganizes to reflect that knowing. This is the true nature of reality. You possess unlimited understanding. You have access to unlimited knowledge, not through effort, not through accumulation, but through intention alone. Knowing is not something you earn, it's something you open up to allow. When you set your intention to know something, when you choose knowingness, it becomes available because consciousness itself is the source of all knowledge. And access to this knowledge is always just a thought away. Who are you, truly? You are far more powerful than you were ever taught to believe. Not because someone says so, like me, not because it sounds inspiring, but because you embody the unlimited nature of consciousness itself. The moment you stop asking for permission, the moment you stop waiting for validation, the moment you stop looking outside of yourself for answers, is the moment you stop giving your power away and start trusting your inner knowing. And in that moment, you shift from the survivor to the conscious creator of your life, grounded in the knowing that your capacity for knowledge is limitless, that your soul is timeless, immortal, forever, and always will be. And so, the next time you find yourself listening to the opinions or judgments of others, whether they come from family, friends, teachers, peers, an Instagram or Facebook post, an influencer, a podcast guest, or the collective voice around you, pause. Release the urge to immediately agree or disagree, or to react from preconditioned indignation or self-righteousness. Simply listen from a place of inner awareness. Notice how your body responds. Notice whether there is expansion or contraction. Pay attention to where you choose to place your attention, how you choose to spend your time, who you give your ear to, and where you consciously or unconsciously may be giving your power away. And with that, we'll bring this to a close. Questions or comments are always welcome. I read them all. I've also left a question in the pinned comment for any insights that you'd like to offer. If you like the sharing and you'd like to hear more, please hit the like button. This is what helps me know that you're inspired by my teachings. And if you'd like to hear more insights, tap the notification bell to be notified when new videos are released. Thank you so much for listening and for being part of this beautiful community where we explore what it means to live fully empowered and self-sovereign, guided by the eternal light within. Superhuman made simple with the architect.